Every human being poops, every single one of us, but almost nobody ever asks one simple question. What did the very first humans do afterward? There were no rules, no parents to teach them, no civilization, no books, no one saying, this is how you clean yourself. So, did they simply walk away? At first, that almost sounds believable. After all, they were trying to survive, find food, escape predators, stay alive. Who would have worried about something as ordinary as hygiene? But here's the strange part. Those same humans figured out how to make fire, how to hunt, how to build tools, how to survive in one of the most dangerous worlds our species had ever known. Could they really have ignored a problem every human would have faced every single day? Or have we completely misunderstood one of the oldest human habits in history? The problem is, nobody was there to watch. The first humans didn't leave behind instructions. They didn't write books. They didn't carve into stone, this is how we cleaned ourselves. So, how could anyone possibly know? For a long time, scientists didn't. Then archaeology changed everything. But not because archaeologists suddenly found the answer. They changed the question. Instead of asking, what did they use? Researchers started asking something completely different. What evidence would survive? That single question changed the entire investigation. Because sometimes, history doesn't tell its story through words. It tells it through clues. Tiny clues, hidden underground, waiting thousands of years for someone to notice them. And one of those clues didn't just answer the mystery. It created an even bigger one. The first clue wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a cave painting. It wasn't even a fossil. It was something much smaller, something only a microscope could reveal. Archaeologists discovered that some ancient toilets still contained tiny parasite eggs. Thousands of years later, those microscopic traces were still there. That might sound disgusting, but to scientists, it was a gold mine because those parasites could reveal what people ate, the diseases they carried, and how they lived. But here's the catch. Parasite eggs can't tell you what someone used to clean themselves. They only prove one thing. People weren't ignoring the problem. So researchers had to look somewhere else. And that's when they turned to something completely unexpected. Modern hunter-gatherer societies. Not because they're living fossils. They're not. And not because they live exactly like prehistoric humans. They don't. But because they can help answer an important question. When people don't have modern technology, how do they solve everyday problems? The answer wasn't one invention. It wasn't one tradition. It was hundreds of different solutions created by different people in different environments. And that's where the mystery finally started to make sense. Imagine living beside a river. Clean water is everywhere. Why wouldn't you use it? Now imagine living somewhere that freezes for months. That solution disappears overnight. Suddenly, you have to adapt. That's exactly what researchers discovered. There was never one universal method because there was never one universal environment. People solved the same problem, using whatever their surroundings offered. In places where clean water was easy to reach, water became the obvious choice. In dense forests, soft plant material was often available. In colder regions, snow could do the job. In rocky landscapes, some cultures even used smooth stones. So, did the first humans simply walk away? By now, that seems very unlikely. Nature never gave every human the same answer. It gave them different tools. And humans did what they've always done. They adapted. Then, something changed. Humans stopped wandering. Villages slowly became cities. And cities eventually became civilization. For the first time, people weren't solving this problem alone anymore. Entire societies began creating their own solutions. Some of them were surprisingly clever. Others were honestly a little horrifying. Take ancient Rome. Most people imagine the Romans as dirty, but many Roman public toilets actually had running water flowing beneath them. For their time, that was incredibly advanced. The strange part came afterward. Instead of toilet paper, many public toilets shared a sponge attached to a stick. Yes, the same sponge. Used again and again. It sounds disgusting today, and by modern standards, it absolutely was. But strangely enough, it was still an improvement, because for the first time, people were deliberately creating tools for hygiene. But believe it or not, Rome wasn't even the strangest discovery. In ancient China, archaeologists uncovered something incredible. Wooden hygiene stick, nearly 2,000 years old. Some still contained microscopic parasite eggs. For the first time, scientists finally had something they almost never have. Direct evidence, not a guess, not a theory. Real proof that people had developed dedicated cleaning tools. Not because someone suddenly invented hygiene, but because every generation kept improving the solutions that came before it. By now, you might be wondering, so when did toilet paper change everything? The answer is that it didn't. In fact, this is probably the biggest myth of all. Toilet paper didn't teach humans how to clean themselves. Humans had already been solving this problem for hundreds of thousands of years. Paper simply became another solution. In some parts of the world, people preferred paper. In others, water remained the obvious choice. Even today, billions of people still clean themselves with water instead of toilet paper. Not because one method is ancient and the other is modern, but because different traditions survived in different places. The more scientists uncovered, the clearer the picture became. There was never one moment when humanity suddenly became clean. There were millions of tiny discoveries passed from one generation to the next, each one making life just a little bit better. So, did they simply walk away? Almost certainly not. This wasn't really a story about poop. It was a story about human adaptation. We don't know who solved this problem first. We don't know exactly what they used, but somewhere, hundreds of thousands of years ago, someone looked at a problem and refused to ignore it. The next generation improved it, then the next, and the next, until eventually, those tiny discoveries became everyday habit. Not because anyone taught them, because humans are unbelievably good at adapting. The tools changed, the instinct didn't.